Extra readings for Revelation 1. When Jesus the Christ comes the second time, will he set up his kingdom on earth, and will it be an everlasting kingdom? Read his promises in that ye have written of his words, even as I gave. He shall rule for 1,000 years. Then shall Satan be loosed again for a season. That as has been compiled, as worthy of the attention of so many that are in doubt and are struggling to see the light. This gives many the perfect understanding of that which they have sought for, but have not been able to put into the workable form, even for the mind. Then why delay? The time is at hand. The field is right. The harvest needs to be gathered. The work is ready. Then let's be up and doing, for the night cometh when no man can work. In this case does not mean death. It does not mean the close of day, but rather that the individual has become so hardened, so engrossed, so hedged about by the various circumstances and conditions, that the individual is incapable of gaining the proper concept and to do the work as should be done for the development of self toward the mark of the higher calling. The work is prepared. The field is right, the field is ready. Let's publish same. Gain the criticisms, gain the plaudits. But do not let same go to the head. Gain that understanding as comes from accomplishing and doing things. See. What is the lesson that may be drawn from my entrance into the present plane? That the soul might meet in this experience that which will make for the more sureness in him. For, the earth is his and the fullness thereof. God and the Christ Spirit is life itself, and the motivating force of the soul is either for that companionship, that association, that development which will make such a soul body as a fit companion for that creative influence manifested in the earth in him, or it is for separating self from him. For, in the beginning was the Word, and that Christ Spirit was the Word. That Word was made flesh, even as each soul that manifests in the earth is made flesh. That soul, that Christ Spirit, dwelt among men, and that soul made itself of no estate, yet the Creator, the Maker, the Giver of the life itself, that man, that each soul, that this soul might know that it has an advocate with the Father through him that gave himself as a ransom. How? As the impulses in self arise, know those impulses have arisen in him. Yet through his ability to overcome death in the material world is his presence able to abide with thee. Dost thou trust in him and not in self? In him who is the Maker and the Creator is life alone, and they that put their trust in anything else climb up some other way. But they that put their trust in him are his, and he calleth them by name, and he abideth with them. When ye call on him he is very near. Know, then, that in this experience thou mayest come to know him as thine daily companion in whatsoever thou doest. For, if ye love me, keep my commandments. What are his commandments? A new commandment he gave, that ye love one another, even as he hath loved thee. Man's spiritual capacity for happiness, consciousness, peace and love is infinite and eternal, but man's sensuous capacity for these characteristics is limited. Has a beginning and an end, and thus are unreal in comparison to the spiritual and real faculties. That is, the Alpha and Omega. The infinite beginning and end. These, then, are truths and precepts that the entity should install, within self, in the most inmost recesses of the heart and soul, that the mighty forces in self may give better service to man and to self. See. Each soul as it has entered and does enter into material manifestation is to fulfill a purpose with the creative forces or God. For he hath not willed that any soul should perish, but hath with every temptation, every fault, prepared a way, a manner, an opportunity for the entity to become as one with him. For that is the purpose of the soul's being in the beginning. Hence without beginning, without end. We were all created by God. Hence we were and are always his. Hence Alpha and Omega, that is, without beginning or ending. I am Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end. That God, the Father, the Spirit, the Oum, is the influencing force of every activity is not wholly sufficient unto man's salvation, in that he is a free will being. As intimated that Alpha beginning, Omega ending. For the confirmation, the segregation, the separation, the building, the adding to it is necessary in relation to those activities that lie between. For man's building to the beginning and the end. Please explain the part of the affirmation, day unto day uttereth speech, night unto night showeth knowledge. This is to be applied in each individual experience. For day unto day uttereth speech, whether from the material, the mental or the spiritual aspect, as does night show forth in the varied applications the same is given of life. For it is Alpha and Omega. There is always communication between us and God, physically, mentally, spiritually. Even at night, while we are asleep there is communication in the mind and spirit with God. In other words, we are always, and will be connected to God. Explain how I may reach that point in my development where I may consciously control my incarnations and remember previous existences. As he has given, in me ye may become aware of all those things that ye have done to me, with me, from the beginning. Then, as we apply that, as he, the master, is life. As he is the maker, the giver of life, the creator of all that is of constructive nature that finds itself manifesting in the earth. We do his biddings. Love thy neighbor as thyself, thy Lord, thy God, with all thine heart, mind, soul, body. And so do we become aware, in whatsoever way or manner he may give or will. As the Lord and the giver. As being the way. For indeed do we find him the way, when it is realized that the earth and the fullness thereof is the Lord's and his creation. Creating, then, with him. In the lives and hearts and souls of others his awareness. Brings to the consciousness of self what and where and when thou hast done this or that in an experience in the earth. For, as there is the practice in using any art that may be called a manifestation in the earth, there is brought. As with the music in the playing thereof. The sensing that prompts same to find expression in that activity. The same is true in color, in the application of the brush, that portrays some activity or experience in the affairs in the life of a soul. Such is called soul music, soul painting. Such may be the experience of each soul, as it applies and looks for and listens to the still small voice from within. For, as he has given, I am from the beginning. I am Alpha and Omega. What hast thou done about me in thine experiences? And as we use that as we may write upon the pages of time and space, that we know respecting his love, his law, his patience with man, we become aware within ourselves that he walks and talks with men, unless we alone shut him from our lives. For, I am persuaded that heaven nor earth, principalities nor powers, may separate one from the love of him. And the more so when it may be felt and is felt within self, that face, that body, bore in itself in the earth the ministration of thy hands. What counsel may be given as to the subjects and improvement in presentation of the parallel material being studied by the group? Study the reactions as parallels, and as there are the experiences from individuals applying the lessons, these combined with the outlines, should make for not a running away with self or any individual, but rather a seeing of the Christ. For he is ever new. He is the Alpha and Omega, the bright and morning star, he is the water of life, and they that take thereof shall not thirst, neither shall they weary. When they weary of the Christ. Too bad. Any form of expression with a focus on Christ is a blessing to oneself and others. But the body, the mind, the heart or soul must coordinate as one, if there will be in this sojourn, this material experience, the greater accomplishments. Either for the material, the mental or the spiritual activities. And these are one. The body, the mind, the soul. Even as the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit are one. These coordinating, these as a purposefulness not for self-indulgence, not for self-glory, not for self-gratification alone, but that the glory of him may be magnified. Who has been and who is the beginning and the end of all things in thy experiences. If these are kept, they will bring harmony and peace in thy relationships with the world and the dwellers therein. Be then in the world, yet not of the world. Many phases of the entity's activities have been and are a light, a helpful influence for those in various activities who are assisting in the awakening of man to his relationships to creative forces. Hold fast to him, who is the way, the beginning, the end of man's consciousness of God and his promises that are thine, if thy whole trust is put in him. If ye know him, ye know that in him ye have eternal life. For he is the beginning and the end of all things. So, as the entity analyzes its own purposes in the earth, as it determines what its ideals are, know they must ever be as beginning and ending in him. The laws of divine nature have been prepared and have been since before men and in men's actions and will forces are those things and govern and change or open to the use of man and his force. These laws are set as in this manner and form and man becomes then an integral force in creation itself, yet man in himself creates nothing. For he is the Alpha and the Omega of creation as is expressed and shown in the world and manifested through these beings as are created in the world, see. All were made that was made, and without him there was nothing made that was made. He was from the beginning and will be unto the end, and those laws remain as is this. In this, we see the plan of development of those individuals as set upon this plane, meaning only that of the ability as would be manifested from the physical of being able to enter again into the presence of the Creator and become the full part of that creation. This is development, see. Magnify in the daily life the fruit of the Spirit of truth, that all may take hold and make for that activity in their lives. Knowing that as ye do it unto the least of thy brethren ye do it to thy Maker. Meditate oft upon what it is does mean today, to crucify the Lord thy God in thy daily experiences. Rather magnify, glorify him in every word, every activity, in all thy dealings with thy fellow man. By thy very step, by thy very look, by thy word, create hope in the hearts, minds and lives of others. Make it sure in thy own heart, for there, to thee, is the beginning and the end. For he is mindful of thee, and he has promised that whosoever will may come and take of the cup that he partook of, that through him we may be sure in our hopes, our responses to the needs of the world at this sad changing hour. Let that mind ever be in thee as was in him as he offered himself up. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Father, it is finished. I come to thee. Give thou thy servant that glory which thou hast promised. Live that in thy life, thy conversation, thy activity everywhere. For he hath entrusted to thee those that love him the redemption of the world, to make known his willingness, his care, his promises that may be the activity of each and every soul. Then, let not your heart be troubled, ye believe in God. Believe in him, who has promised that if ye will love me and keep my commandments, I will come and abide with thee. For, lo, I am with thee always. His commandments are not grievous. Just being kind, just being patient, just being long-suffering with thy problems, thy turmoils, thy strifes. Through that ability to make himself one with the Father, he has gained that right, that honor to declare himself unto as many as will hearken. Let thy light, then, shine ever in the dark, in the light, in the sorrow, in the gladness of thy purpose, of thy desire, that he may be glorified even as he asks of the Father. Ye, each of ye, as individuals, may do this. So ye, as ye come into his presence, may be given well done, thou good and faithful brother. Enter into the joy of thy Lord. Can you describe, by similes or comparison, what it is in other systems which attracts the souls? There are conditions that may meet every idiosyncrasy of the individual soul. Then consider the millions, and how much is required of thee. There are centers through which those of one solar system may pass to another, as we have indicated in information for individuals. There are also those experiences in which individual souls may seek a change. For it is not by the will of God that any soul perishes, but with every temptation, with every trial there is prepared the way of escape. God, the Father, then, as the Creator, the beginning and the end. In him is the understanding, by and through those influences that have taken form in universes, to meet the needs of each soul that we might find our way to him. The problems and opportunities we experience in this earth is so small compared to the opportunities that is prepared for us by God in the universe. As he has given, every soul shall give account of the deeds done in the body. What body? That body of mind, mental body, that body of physical manifestation, that body of spirit, spiritual body, each in its own sphere, its own realm. Earth, in this solar system, merely represents 3 dimensions. Then, how many dimensions are in this solar system? 8. What position does the Earth occupy? 3rd. What position do others occupy? That relative relationship one to another. Who is the author and the finisher of same? The Word. Who is the Word? He that made himself manifest in the flesh. Who is the beginning and the end? Even Jesus, the Christ. The beloved, then, was banished to the isle, and was in meditation, in prayer, in communion with those saints who were in that position to see, to comprehend the greater needs of those that would carry on. And, as given in the beginning, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and beheld, and heard, and saw, and was told to write. The experiences of the soul are meeting that which it has merited, for the clarification, for the associations of itself with that whatever has been set as its ideal. If one set self against that love manifested by the Creator, in its activity brought into material plane, then there must be a continual warring of those elements. For as we find ourselves in his presence, that we have builded in the soul makes for that condemnation or that pleasing of the presence of that in his presence. Let thine lights be in him, for these are the manners through which all may come to an understanding of the activities. For, as was given, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day. I was caught up to the 7th heaven. Whether I was in the body or out of the body I cannot tell. What was taking place? The subjugation of the physical attributes in accord and attune with its infinite force as said as its ideal brought to that soul, well done, thou good and faithful servant, enter into the joys of thy Lord. He that would be the greatest among you. Not as the Gentiles, not as the heathen, not as the scribes or Pharisees, but he that would be the greatest will be the servant of all. As the Master has given, there is in the experience of each soul that which answers or arouses to activity those influences and forces that produce the unfoldment. Then in self, as there is joy, as there is praise, there is harmony within self such that the expression of the singing gives, the word makes, creates, brings about an unfoldment that is not fully comprehended without that portion of the activity. Consider, as an illustration of same, as he gave to those about him. To one he said, lovest thou me? Then feed my sheep. To another he said, what thou doest, do thou quickly. These are as far as the east from the west. They are as far as heaven and hell itself. Yet in each is given that necessary an activity that soul becomes aware of its vision of the purposes of the Father with that soul. To another he gives, write thou that thou hast seen. To others he gave. This day, this generation shall not pass till some standing here have seen the Son of Man in his glory. Why? That they might experience that necessary in their own activity, that would produce, that would make that unfoldment as from the bud to the full-blown rose, that its beauty, its aroma, its essence might gladden the hearts, even of those that are as wayfarers. Hence as he gave in the last hours. And sang the psalm of praise, yea and as he joked. As ye would say to those about him, about the beauties of the garden, yet all of these filled a portion of the experience of those that made them stronger in purpose, in determination to be as he himself had proclaimed hundreds of years before as Joshua, others may do as they may, but as for me and my house, we will serve the living God. Please explain. While meditating I had the realization of the forces within and the forces without being the one and the same force. Then as if someone said, why not look to the within? When I turned to the within, I received a realization of the Christ which seemed to take form and body. In this the body consciousness experienced much that I, even John, experienced when I looked behind me from the cave and saw that the without and within are one, when the desires of the heart make each atom of the physical body vibrate with the consciousness of, the belief and the faith and the presence of, the Christ life, the Christ consciousness. Life is an essence of the Father. The Christ, taking up the life of the man Jesus, becomes life and glory, and may be glorified in each atom of a physical body that attunes self to the consciousness and the will of the Christ Spirit.